The legend of Bigfoot has long straddled the line between folklore and science fiction, capturing imaginations with grainy footage, hushed encounters in dense forests, and cryptic footprints found in the mud. But as of 2025, the world of cryptozoology has been rocked by what some are calling the most compelling evidence yet: the possible recovery and testing of DNA linked to an unknown hominin species. This isn't just blurry photos or second-hand stories anymore. We're talking about forensic labs, peer-reviewed journals, and DNA sequences that don't match anything currently catalogued. So, has science finally proven the existence of Bigfoot? Let's rewind to how this all began. In late 2024, a group of researchers from a university in the Pacific Northwest, an area already synonymous with Sasquatch legends, were studying local wildlife using environmental DNA, or eDNA. This relatively new method allows scientists to collect samples from the environment, like water, soil, or even snow, and detect genetic material left behind by animals. While initially seeking to track local bear populations, the team encountered a recurring anomaly: genetic markers in several samples didn't match any known species. Intrigued and a little skeptical, they ran the tests again. The results were identical, and that's when things started getting strange. By January 2025, the team had gathered over 40 environmental DNA samples from different regions across Washington, Oregon, and Northern California. Each one showed trace DNA with primate-like markers that bore similarities to human DNA. But with a twist. They contained mitochondrial mutations not found in Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, or Denisovans. The DNA suggested the presence of a large primate species with a distant link to early hominins, yet genetically distinct enough to warrant classification as a completely new species. The scientists labeled the unknown profile as Species X. The public didn't hear about this immediately. The researchers, fully aware of the cultural minefield surrounding Bigfoot, decided to keep the findings under wraps while they sought independent verification. It wasn't until March 2025 that the story broke, first leaked to a science blog, then picked up by mainstream outlets. The headlines were cautious but explosive. Unknown primate DNA found in Pacific Northwest. Could eDNA finally prove Sasquatch exists? And eventually, Bigfoot DNA confirmed. Scientists break silence. What gave this story legs, pun intended, was the credibility of those involved. The lead geneticist, Dr. Helena Ruiz, is a respected figure in molecular biology with decades of research in primate genetics. She's no stranger to skepticism and didn't set out to find Bigfoot. In fact, she initially believed the mysterious sequences might be contamination or artifacts from degraded samples. But after months of peer collaboration and third-party lab reviews, her stance shifted. One may be looking at evidence of an unclassified primate species that shares some genetic overlap with humans, but is genetically unique, she said in a press briefing. Notably, Dr. Ruiz avoided using the term Bigfoot, instead emphasizing the scientific novelty of the find. But to the public, it was clear this was the closest anyone had ever gotten to scientific validation of the creature. The implications are enormous. First, let's talk about morphology. If this DNA does belong to a previously unknown hominin or primate species, what does that say about the countless sightings, footprints, and alleged recordings spanning decades? Witness descriptions have long been dismissed as imagination or hoaxes, but now those same accounts are being re-examined with fresh scientific interest. Could the infamous Patterson-Gimlin film, often discredited, be more than just a clever costume? Could those plaster casts of giant footprints, once laughed at, be legitimate biometric evidence? The skeptics are, of course, pushing back. Geneticists from other institutions argue that the DNA might still be contamination from an unknown animal source or degraded human DNA with unusual mutations. Others suggest that the eDNA sampling method, while revolutionary, is still prone to errors and should not be treated as definitive proof of a new species. Fair points, especially considering the stakes involved. But unlike past Bigfoot evidence, which typically fell apart under scrutiny, this time the evidence is staying strong through repeated testing. Another fascinating development involves the geographical consistency of the findings. Samples containing the anomalous DNA were retrieved from a range of isolated forested areas stretching from Northern California to British Columbia. Each location had historical Bigfoot reports, often dismissed by authorities. Yet here we are in 2025, and DNA from these same places points toward a shared genetic source. That kind of pattern isn't easily fabricated, and it suggests that, if real, this creature has a broad but elusive habitat. Let's also consider the behavioral implications. Why haven't we found a body? Why is it so hard to track? One theory gaining traction is that this unknown species may be highly intelligent, perhaps even rivaling early Homo sapiens in cognitive function. This would explain their uncanny ability to evade detection, their nocturnal habits, and their avoidance of human-populated areas. Some experts even speculate that these beings may communicate using low-frequency vocalizations or gestures, behaviors consistent with high-level primates. The cultural impact of these revelations has been immediate and intense. Native American communities across the Pacific Northwest have long spoken of beings like Sasquatch, or the Watchers, as they're sometimes called, figures not of myth, but memory. For them, this scientific validation isn't a surprise. It's a long overdue acknowledgement of ancient knowledge passed down through oral traditions. Tribes have begun to collaborate with scientists, offering historical locations and even maps based on folklore to aid in the next phase of research. Meanwhile, cryptozoologists, often dismissed as fringe theorists, are experiencing something of a vindication. Many who spent decades combing the forests with nothing more than audio equipment and hope now feel the scientific establishment is finally catching up. Conferences dedicated to Sasquatch research have seen record attendance, and funding for further exploration is pouring in from both private institutions and curious billionaires. But the situation isn't without controversy. As soon as the DNA findings were announced, several private groups rushed to the Pacific Northwest, hoping to capture or photograph the creature. Some have even set up baited traps or installed military-grade surveillance systems in remote areas. Conservationists warn this could turn into a dangerous manhunt if not handled ethically. If this species is indeed real and potentially endangered, then capturing one, or worse, killing it, could trigger moral, legal, and ecological backlash. Governments have remained largely silent on the matter, though there are rumors of covert operations already underway. A leaked memo from a US Forest Service internal communication allegedly advised rangers to report any usual primate activity immediately and avoid engaging with unknown animals. If true, it suggests that even federal agencies are taking the DNA findings seriously, though without issuing public statements. Meanwhile, the scientific community is ramping up efforts to obtain clearer proof. The next step, according to Dr. Ruiz and her team, is to isolate more substantial DNA, ideally from hair, scat, or tissue, rather than environmental residue. They are now deploying drones equipped with thermal imaging and partnering with local guides to revisit the locations where positive eDNA samples were found. The hope is that these tools, combined with growing public interest and funding, will lead to the first direct observation or physical sample of Species X. Another surprising angle is how this revelation is reshaping our understanding of human evolution. If this unknown hominin has survived into modern times, it raises profound questions. Was it a rival species that branched off from the same ancestor as humans? Did it interbreed with early humans? Could this be a ghost lineage that we thought had gone extinct tens of thousands of years ago, now reemerging from the mists of folklore? Scientists are also debating whether the species could possess rudimentary tools, social structures, or even language. A few researchers speculate that their survival may be due to a sophisticated understanding of their environment, something akin to what early humans achieved in hunter-gatherer societies. If confirmed, this creature wouldn't just be another animal, it would be our closest living relative outside of the known great apes. As expected, the The debate has extended beyond science and into the realms of religion, philosophy, and even politics. Some religious groups view this discovery as a challenge to conventional ideas about humanity's unique place in creation. Others see it as confirmation of their long-held beliefs in hidden beings. Online forums are flooded with theories ranging from the plausible to the outrageous, everything from interdimensional travel to government cover-ups. And yes, conspiracy theorists are having a field day. They claim the government has known about Bigfoot for decades, that these creatures have been sighted by military personnel, and that the truth has been suppressed to avoid public panic. Some even allege that these beings possess psychic abilities or are remnants of ancient civilizations. While such claims remain unsubstantiated, their popularity shows just how deeply embedded the Bigfoot legend is in the cultural imagination. At the same time, the public's hunger for credible information is growing. Documentaries are in production. Universities are launching new programs in cryptozoology. Even mainstream scientists, who once scoffed at the idea, are now calling for open-minded exploration. The stigma around Bigfoot research is slowly fading, replaced by a genuine curiosity about what else might be hiding in our rapidly shrinking wilderness. So, has science finally proven Bigfoot exists? Not conclusively, not yet, but for the first time in history, the gap between myth and reality is narrowing. The DNA evidence, though not final, is strong. The patterns are consistent, the researchers are credible, and the momentum is building. Whether you're a die-hard believer, an open-minded skeptic, or just someone fascinated by the unknown, one thing is clear. 2025 may be remembered as the year the Bigfoot question moved out of the shadows and into the light of science. If a full specimen is ever found, or if enough genetic material is compiled to map the entire genome of this unknown primate, it won't just confirm the existence of Bigfoot. It will redefine how we understand evolution, biology, and the blurred lines between legend and life. Until then, keep your ears open and your eyes sharp, because the forests may be holding onto secrets we're only just beginning to uncover. This is Eyes on the Unseen, where the shadows of legend meet the spotlight of truth. Stay curious and stay watching.